Enjoy these videos and subscribe and stick around for more content just like this. Now let's get back to the topic of the video. Kenpachi's Bankai is revealed to us in chapter 669 during his battle against the Sternritter Gerard Valkyrie. Prior to this payoff that occurs towards the end of the series, Kenpachi takes part in several battles during the 1000-Year Blood War arc. Most notably his fight against Gremi Unohana, and right at the start of the arc where he challenges Hashward and Yuhabak. In chapter 502, we see Kenpachi, after having defeated 3 Sternritters, appear before their leader Yuhabak. Typical of Kenpachi, he heads towards the strongest individuals on the battlefield. Hashward recognizes that Kenpachi is indeed a freak. He has no interest with fighting against the second in command, as he states that he was here to challenge Yuhabak. Wasting little time, Kenpachi draws his blade and strikes the leader of the Quincy. Unfortunately, their encounter does occur off-screen. As we cut back to the battle in chapter 505, we see Yuhabak holding Kenpachi up in the air by his neck. He is disappointed by the captain, as he states that he had not lived up to his expectations. The Quincy had assigned Kenpachi to be the first of their 5 great war potentials that they were hoping to recruit. Because of his battle with a very unrefined Kenpachi, Yuhabak states that the Soul Society is on the brink of collapse, and that the Quincy have nothing to worry about, because their opponents have grown weaker with the times of peace. The start of the 1000-Year Blood War arc was the perfect prelude to the training and development that several Shinigami undergo between the first and second Quincy invasion. It highlights the weaknesses of the characters, and in particular the glaring problem with the character of Kenpachi, which is that he has no bond with his Zanpakuto. The newly assigned head captain Shunsui realizes that Kenpachi possesses tremendous potential, and he is a valuable asset if the Shinigami desire to win their battle against the Quincy. In response to all of this, he orders Unohana to train Kenpachi so that he is strong enough to face off against the enemy. Kenpachi's training with Unohana takes place between chapters 523 to 527. We learn about their long-standing history, which explains how Unohana was responsible for Kenpachi subconsciously limiting himself. In an attempt to redeem herself for the sin that she had committed, she gives her life for the sake of Kenpachi returning to his prior state, one where he no longer holds back and is concerned about prolonging his battles through suppressing his own power. After his training with Unohana, he mourns her death and cries out in frustration, but then for the very first time he is able to hear the voice of his Zanpakuto, the very blade that has been calling out to him for decades. His Zanpakuto is now finally heard by its master. It reveals its name to be Nozarashi, which means the weather beaten, and it's pretty obvious that this name complements and perfectly describes the appearance of Kenpachi's Zanpakuto when it is in its sealed state. Nozarashi states that it has always been by Kenpachi's side. It has always been watching him. His blade formally introduces himself to its master, revealing its name as well as its loyalty to the Kenpachi from Zaraki. In chapter 114, after Kenpachi's battle with Ichigo, he actually tries to listen to his Zanpakuto, but he is unable to hear anything as he passes out. Nozarashi physically manifests and appears before Kenpachi in chapter 668. It seems as though his Zanpakuto has taken the form of his former lieutenant Yachiru. Nozarashi tells Kenpachi that if he uses the Zanpakuto correctly, then there is nothing that he cannot cut. She touches Kenpachi's hand, which appears to release Reiatsu, as she reveals that this power is what is referred to as Bankai. It was thanks to Nozarashi manifesting that Kenpachi was able to unlock and activate his Bankai. In chapter 577, we had seen the Shikai release of Kenpachi's Zanpakuto. His blade had taken the form of a giant axe, and it was quite an impressive release. We know that the key emphasis surrounding Kenpachi's blade is that it has the ability to cut through anything, and this is demonstrated in chapter 578, where he uses his Shikai to split a meteorite in half. So with Kenpachi being able to effortlessly cut through anything, how is this motif instilled into his Bankai? Well, we finally get a glimpse of Kenpachi's Bankai in both physical appearance. The spiritual energy that is released by this activation levels nearby buildings, and when the dust settles, we see that Kenpachi now has red skin color. He has grown horns from the top of his forehead, and he has these distinctive black markings all over his body and his face. He resembles an Oni, which is a creature that exists in Japanese folklore. It is pretty similar to what we would describe as a demon or an orc. From the traditional folklore tales, Oni are known for being evil in nature, and they have a deep-rooted lust for murdering and devouring others. Stereotypically, an Oni is often colored in red, wearing very little clothing, and having those distinctive horns growing out of their head. The appearance of an Oni signals great misfortune, as they often come bearing plagues and illnesses, as well as earthquakes and wars. And in these